Hi, what's up guys? This is my reaction video for Road to UFC Season 4, Day 2, Episode 3 and 4, which consists of the Bantamweight and Lightweight tournament as well as two non-tournament bouts. So I want to start with the fight in the Bantamweight tournament opening round between Chinese fighter Zhang and Lawrence Louis from New Zealand. This fight is probably my favorite fight from Road to UFC Season 4. I didn't know much about either fighter coming in. All I knew was the Chinese fighter Zhang, he trains out of Shanghai UFC PI, and he was a late replacement for the bout. And Lawrence Louis, I just knew he was a fighter that trains out of City Kickboxing. When the match started, I didn't have that much high expectation, especially in the beginning, because Lawrence Louis was from City Kickboxing, so I was kind of expecting like a dynamic striker with a fast movement. So I'll admit, in the first round, I didn't think he was that good. He just seemed kind of nervous and kind of tight in the opening round. And then he got caught with a big shot by Zhang when he threw a kind of like a lazy kick. And he got caught with a big shot. And for the first round, he was just trying to survive, push him against the fence, non-stop takedowns and etc. I wasn't too impressed because I thought, this guy, I thought he should be much better if he's from City Kickboxing. So I was a little bit surprised. But then once Lawrence Louis survived the onslaught in the opening round from Zhang, who was kind of like a hard puncher, and tried to finish him in that first round. So he survived and he made it to the belt. He made it back to his corner. And the second round, I was really impressed because he started pushing the pace, mixing good takedowns, pushing him against the fence, a lot of good clinch work. He just started taking the fight over. So I think this is a really good example for new fighters. How do you introduce yourself to the audience? And I think Lawrence Louis did that really well. He went through adversity in the first round. He came back in the second round, started taking over, landing big shots of his own, and also slicing him up with elbows in the second round. So you just can't help rooting for a guy like that because he's coming back from adversity and really taking over. In the third round, he started pumping out his jabs and just hitting Zhang with a lot of stiff jabs. And Zhang, he was tough. He was always in the fight, and he was swinging a lot of big shots. But I think sometimes the problem is when you get someone really good with a big headshot, that's all you're trying to find is that knockout shot. So I think Lawrence Louis, he really made a good adjustment and listened to his coaches and just turned the fight around. So this is actually my favorite fight from Road to UFC Season 4 because it had a lot of drama. He had a tough first round and he came back and took over the fight. So I was really impressed with his performance. And, I think that's the thing about MMA. When you don't know the fighter, sometimes the fight isn't that exciting, but when you see the fighter really struggling and overcoming adversity, then you can't help but root for him. So I'm definitely a fan now, and I look forward. I want to see how he can do in the semifinals and also see if he can make it to the finals. He seemed to be very fundamentally sound. Even though sometimes his striking seemed a little stiff in the beginning, but sometimes for like a newer fighter, they are kind of nervous and tight. But once they get cracked, then they really show their toughness and they really just let it all out and get to work. So I think he's that kind of fighter. He definitely showed his grit. And I thought it was a good performance from Lawrence Louis. Other bantamweight tournament opening rounds, Chinese fighter Sulang Rangbo, he really impressed me. Seems like there is a new generation of Chinese fighter coming out of the UFC PI. And they're all really good and well-rounded and super young. He's only 19 years old, and he scored a devastating knockout over Peter Danesoe, which I was quite surprised because I didn't think he could finish Peter Danesoe so easily. He finished him in the first round. Peter, he came out hard and tried to really take the fight to him, but Sulang Rangbo, he's only 19, but he's very composed. He was just really observing, taking in the information, and then he caught Peter Danesoe later in the round with a beautifully timed uppercut, and then just finishing off with a ground and pound. I was really impressed because Peter Danesoe, he's actually quite experienced in Muay Thai, even though he only has a 8-win and 3-loss record in MMA, but he had a lot of fights, and he also trained with Kai Asakura. So I was expecting big things from him. So Sulang Rangbo, he really impressed. At 19, and he seemed to be the total package. And I look forward to see how he does in the semifinal. In other bantamweight tournament opening rounds, I saw Xiong defeated Kuya Ito by a decision. Kuya Ito is the eternal MMA bantamweight champion, so it was a big win for Xiong, and he kind of redeemed himself from last year's Road to UFC when he was knocked out by Peter Danesoe by the flying knee. So it's good to see him get the victory here and moving on to the next round. And the last fight in the bantamweight tournament is between Nghiem against Ray Imura. Nghiem, he's one of the only Vietnamese fighter in Road to UFC Season 4. And he also trains out of the UFC PI in Shanghai. Ray Imura, he seemed like a specialist, very good submission style fighter. And he's really tough. He took a lot of big shots before getting finished because he seemed like a cool guy, very composed. His grappling seems top notch. So I just wish he has better striking. Then I think he'll be a much harder fighter to deal with. So for the semifinal, it'll be Sulang Rangbo versus Xiong. And on the other side of the bracket will be Lawrence Louis versus Nghiem. Both should be very good fights. So in the lightweight tournament, Korean fighter Sang-woo Kim defeated Daichi Kamiya from Japan. Daichi Kamiya, he had like a wrestling heavy approach, and he was very effective in the first round, but I think later on he just sort of ran out of gas, and Sang-woo Kim, he just took over from there and ultimately took him out because he was exhausted. And another fight, Chinese fighter Ren Yawei versus Deni Daffa from Indonesia. Ren Yawei actually also impressed me as well. I didn't know much about him before. He also trains out of the Shanghai PI. Ren Yawei was more of a striker. I think he transitioned from sanda or kickboxing. So I was really expecting more striking approach from him. So I was quite surprised when he submitted Deni Daffa with the mounted guillotine. That was pretty impressive. And Ren Yawei seems like a top prospect, very well-rounded with a good look. So I think he may be one of the top prospects from China in the future. So next up in the lightweight tournament, it was Korean fighter JaeHyun Park defeated Jack Becker by TKO in the second round. JaeHyun Park was quite impressive as well because he was a much younger fighter. He was only 23. Jack Becker had a lot of more fight experience than JaeHyun Park, but in this fight, JaeHyun Park, he looked like the more savvy veteran out of the two. He was composed. He was always a step ahead in the grappling. Because Jack Becker was a black belt, but JaeHyun Park was quite impressive. Went toe to toe with him in the grappling department, and actually he had the better exchanges. And ultimately, I think Jack Becker, he just kind of ran out of gas as well. So JaeHyun Park took over and finished him in the second round. So it was a great performance for such a young fighter. And the last fight in the lightweight tournament was Yuji Ephoeviga from Japan versus Dong Mar Fan from Australia. Dong Mar Fan, he fought like a veteran. He did really well. Dong Mar Fan reminds me of guys like Cor McGee or Michael Chiesa, just a really gritty, grappling heavy style fighter. No nonsense, not flashy, but very effective. He just controlled Yuji really well in the first two rounds with his grappling, and he had good ground and pound as well. Yuji had some moments in the third round, hitting him with some big elbows and some big shots. But Dong Mar Fan, he seemed very durable, and he's just also very composed in the fight as well. So ultimately, he beat him by a unanimous decision after taking the first two rounds. He has a very cool fight moniker, the Street Buddha. So I look forward to see how he does in the lightweight tournament. I think with his style is very consistent, so I wouldn't be surprised if he can make it to the finals. I think it'll be a good fight between Don Marfan and Ren Yawei. So in the two non-tournament bouts, Kid Campbell defeated Shogo Sato by TKO in the first round. And the other fight was between Xie Bing and Zhu Kangjie, two training partners and friends out of the cage. And this is the Season 3 Featherweight Tournament Final, which finally take place at the Season 4. Because sometimes when training partner fight, it's not the most exciting fight in the world because you just know each other too well. You know what he's going to do, and he know what you're going to do. So it just kind of becomes like a tactical sparring match. It's kind of like when Shavkat Rakhmonov, known for his exciting and brutal style, when he fought in Gary, it was also like a technical, sparring because he just knew each other too well. So in this case, it's pretty much the same thing. Zhu Kangjie and Xie Bing, they just kind of, waiting for each other to make a mistake. Just a lot of waiting and countering. At the end, Zhu Kangjie took the decision because he just scored more significant strikes. The harder shots were definitely from Zhu Kangjie. He won the fight and he became the 17th Chinese fighter to earn a UFC contract. So this is my reaction for Road to UFC Season 4 opening rounds. And Road to UFC Season 4 semifinals will return on August 22nd, the night before UFC Fight Night Shanghai, and I will make a separate video then. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.